Saturday along the lakeshore. Kevin O'Brien joined by Mike Tannis. The first time we're ever getting this combination here live in studio. Mike, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. I'm happy and excited to be here on the 2010 Sports Machine. It's going to be a very nice show today. I have a good feeling about it.
It's going to be a terrific show. It's a soggy day along the lakeshore. We got a lot of football, though, to keep us inside. And, of course, today, a very sad day as well, September 11th. So we are going to take some time out today to remember what happened 9 years ago and the effect it had on us. And, of course, too, the effect it had on sports, because it did have a big effect in the sports world, and we're doing a sports show. So that's what we're going to take a look at. But right now, top of the show, we like to usually start with some local stuff. But right now, we're going to talk a little college football, little Michigan State Spartan, Florida Atlantic today in Ford Field. And right now, we're going to be joined on the line by the beat writer for the Michigan State Spartan football team for MLive.com, Greg Johnson, who is joining us. And he is in Detroit this morning. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
We're doing terrific. It's a little wet up here, a little wetter than it should be, I think. But you know what? Perfect excuse to stay inside, watch some football today. Of course, the Spartans at Ford Field taking on Florida Atlantic. Again, not a game that the Spartans should have any trouble winning, but there's still a lot of things to watch in this game before they get ready for Notre Dame. And Greg, we'll start with last week. What's the biggest storyline to you out of game one? It appeared to me watching the game, it was the emergence of Bell at running back.
Yeah, I think that was probably the one that surprised fans the most. I think just having a running game is really a positive sign for Michigan State, because last year they couldn't consistently do it. Now they did do it against Western last year, so we have to hold that in check and make sure they do it 2 weeks in a row. But having a running game and getting some turnovers, those were two things they just didn't do last year. And it was a big part of their, going 6 and 7 and just never getting over the hump. But so if they can continue to run the ball, that sets up their entire offense, because they play that pro-style balanced offense. And if they can get some turnovers, then that plays into modern football. You can't stop the spreads. You have to hope to steal from them. And so that's the best way to play those things.
Talking to Greg Johnson, MLive.com, beat writer for the Spartans. He also works for the Grand Rapids Press. Greg, we talked about the emergence of a running game for Michigan State being such a significant thing to see Saturday. And again, it's early, and it's against Western. And like you said, against Western last year, they could run the ball. But it appears there's a little logjam forming at running back for the Spartans. When do you see Caper returning? And when he does return, how do you see the handoffs going between Baker, Bell, and Caper?
Yeah, that's going to be that's a mystery, really. He should come back today, even though they've never really told us exactly what his injury is. It's some kind of hand injury, which prevents him from handling the ball really well, which is obviously not a good thing for a running back. And so he may be back today. He did practice, but he also practiced the week before. So he's had a cast on his hand. It just depends. I think in pregame they'll put him through some tests to see if he can hang onto the ball. And if he passes those this week, he'll get to play. Now, how they're going to divide the carries, I don't know. If they're going to try to divide them up 10 apiece, or if they're going to, go with the hot guy. I got a feeling their plan is to kind of give them all a chance in the first half, see who's kind of feeling it and who's breaking off bigger runs, and then they'll ride that guy at the start of the second half and see if he's the guy. And then by the fourth quarter, they'll just go with whoever they feel the best about. They're going to try to win the game, and I think they think all three of them can do things. They're just going to see which one is having the most success against that team.
Greg Johnson, MLive.com, Grand Rapids Press, joining us on Mom FM. Kevin O'Brien sitting alongside Mike Tannis on this soggy morning in Ludington. Greg, the pass defense, whether you're a Michigan fan or Michigan State fan, the pass defense has to worry you from what it was last year, especially for Michigan State. One of the worst in the nation last year statistically. What were your impressions in their first chance to redeem themselves against Western, and really looking at the whole camp and how you've seen the defensive backs play? Do you think there's going to be a big improvement in that defensive backfield?
Well, I think there's going to be an improvement. I wouldn't say that's go from being pretty bad to being really good. If they can get to pretty good, they'll be a much better team, because they have a great offense. So I think their goal should be just be a pretty good defensive backfield and match up, get a better pass rush. That'll help them a ton if they get a pass rush. And the cornerbacks actually played pretty well last week. Johnny Adams and Chris L. Rucker both had decent games. They were with their guys. They're playing kind of a soft cushion sometimes, but that's just the way they play this defense. They'll give you stuff in front of you, and then they try to take the ball away, once you get to like the 30-yard line. So, they don't get real aggressive with their blitz packages and that kind of stuff until you've crossed the 50. So it's just the way they play defense. And sometimes it makes it look like they're not playing good pass defense. Sometimes that's what they're giving the other team because they want to take away the run and they want to control the deep pass.
Talking Michigan State football with Greg Johnson from MLive.com, the Grand Rapids Press, on Mom's 2010 Sports Machine. Obviously, Bell was one of the biggest bright spots for the Spartans in Week 1. Was there any other freshmen or new starters that really caught your eye against Western?
Well, I think the right guard, Chris McDonald, had a really good game. Yeah, and also the right tackle, J. Michael Dean, who's a senior, but he's a new starter. So that whole right side of the line played pretty well, and they looked pretty good. They looked just as good as the left side, so that's a good sign. That means they'll probably have a running game most of the year. Defensively, Isaiah Lewis, he's a safety who comes in on the nickel package. He played pretty well, and he's a true freshman. So he's a talent, and he's a hitter. So I would think he's going to be a good Spartan. We'll be hearing his name doing a lot of things for the next 4 years. So, there's some young talent there that's pretty good players. Denikos Allen had a fumble recovery. He's a quality player, too.
We talked about the good things from that win against Western last week, the running game contributing, winning the turnover battle. There were a lot of drop passes, though, from those wide receivers, and Kirk Cousins needs a little bit more help if he's going to have the kind of season that Spartan fans hope and Spartan fans really need him to have for success in the Big Ten. Your impression of this wide receiver core as a whole, and in particular to Keith Nickel, because I feel like that's the biggest wild card on this team. Do you think he can be the type of contributor, maybe not that Blair White was, but do you think he can kind of take some of that load on?
He can certainly take some of the load on because he has great hands and he's a big, strong kid who's going to be a great target in the red zone. But he can't run like Blair White. Few people can. He's not that fast. But he is not slow either. You might think, oh, he's going to be a big slow guy. He's not really. He's pretty quick. He's got great hands and he likes to block. So I think he's going to contribute greatly. And really the receivers. The 6 drops, I think, were an anomaly. If that keeps up, that'd be a really huge surprise then. I just think that was kind of a bad game, a little bit of concentration, a little bit of trying to do too much. Because they have a body of work. I mean, Cunningham was their leading returning receiver. Mark Dell's been around for a couple of years. He knows how to make plays. The drops shouldn't happen every week. I mean, they're going to drop some. Keyshawn Martin is going to drop some. He doesn't have that great of hands. But, boy, when he does catch it, look out. So you're gonna have to live with a few drops, but you'll also get some big plays out of those guys. I think it's a talented group.
Talking to Greg Johnson, MLive.com, Grand Rapids Press, 102.7 WMOM. A neutral site game today at Ford Field for Michigan State as they take on Florida Atlantic. How excited is the Michigan State program to get over to Detroit? They obviously have a lot of fans on the east side of the state, but it's a different chance for people in the Detroit area to maybe see this team. And how is Michigan State as a program viewing this game, and how have you seen the ticket sales? How full of a house do you think we have today at noon?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a very full house. I think it'll probably be about half. It's going to look like a Lion game, actually. I think the ticket sales were down. I think it's, Michigan State has so many home games. They don't leave the state for ever.
Yeah,
so I think some people cut this weekend out of their budget and thought one last weekend where I can stay home and mow the lawn, And so I think some people, and I think the initial announcement of ticket prices where the high was $79, I think some people blanched at that. And, you got to go downtown Detroit. You can't really tailgate. You got to pay to park. It makes for a long day, and their fan base I still think is around Lansing. I'm sure there's huge alumni support in Detroit, but they usually look forward to getting out of Detroit to go to a game. So I just don't expect a great crowd. I expect it to be enthusiastic to people that are there, and it is a good chance to just go see them. But I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. It will be an advantage for them because, let's face it, 27 of the guys who play for them, and a lot of those guys are on the 2-deep roster, are right from the Detroit area.
That's true. Michigan State does have their recruiting really has started to pick up in the inner city there in Detroit. Greg Johnson, MLive.com, Grand Rapids Press. Greg, before we let you go and get ready for the game, what should we look for today? What are the keys to the game? And finally, give us a prediction. What do you think is going to happen today at noon at Ford Field?
Okay, well, I think the key to the game obviously is FAU gave up a lot of rushing yards last week, and obviously Michigan State noticed that. Now, some of it was the quarterback running. You're not going to see Kirk Cousins take off. But Michigan State will try to establish the run, and they'll go with it as long as they can. But they'll also balance it out. They'll throw the ball. They'll try to strike deep. They think they match up speedways. I'm sure FAU thinks they're maybe a little quicker, so they're going to try to vertical pass and try to go down the field on Michigan State. So they'll try some bombs. They'll try a few things to get the ball to their wide receivers. But, I got a feeling Michigan State should dominate. I think they're better on both lines, and that usually wins you a football game. I'm thinking, 40 to 15 or 40 to 20, something like that. I think Michigan State should dominate the game.
Well, it should be a nice little test as they get ready for Notre Dame in a week. And like you said, Michigan State has a pretty favorable schedule this year, and they're at home a lot. Like you said, they don't leave the state of Michigan, I believe, until week 6 or 7. So it should be a good test today, and I look forward to reading your recap and all your coverage this week on mlive.com. Once again, Greg Johnson joining us talking Spartan football. Greg, have fun today, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again, that was Greg Johnson from mlive.com. You can read him throughout the week. He does a great job kind of recapping everything you need to know about the Spartan football team. And we don't lie to you here on Mom's 2010 Sports Machine. I'm not a Spartan fan. I want them to do well, though, when they're not playing Michigan. So,
well, I mean, they're playing a relatively weak team today, and that, like Greg said, he's looking for the Spartans to dominate. And I think that's going to be true. They're going to win on both sides of the, defense and offense, and they're probably going to end up coming with just a solid victory today. They don't quite have the test that Michigan has playing Notre Dame.
No, they get that test next week. Michigan State's a good team. Michigan State fans hope they're over the heartbreaks that they've had against Central Michigan.
Right.
It's Michigan State losses like that really have killed them in years before.
Oh, they have.
They have a favorable schedule. They don't have Ohio State on the schedule. They have a lot of good home games this year. It's one of those years that Michigan State really needs to take advantage. Kirk Cousins, one of the best throwing quarterbacks in the Big Ten. In fact, I'd make an argument maybe the best throwing quarterback in the Big Ten. Terrell Pryor's got that combination of also running a 4-3.
Yeah, I was going to say, but he's a little bit more of a...
Right, but Kirk Cousins probably has the better arm. It's a team that's stacked to win right now and not in the future, because if you've seen Michigan State's schedule next year with Big Ten realignment, it is brutal.
It's bad.
At Ohio State, at Wisconsin, facing Michigan, Nebraska.
Yeah.
This is all in a 4 or 5 week stretch.
It's going to be a big change up next season, but coming back to this season, like you said, Michigan State doesn't even leave home until I think week 6, and great time for them to rack up some wins. That's the best way I look at it. You got that home field advantage. You might as well take advantage of it right now.
You got to take advantage when you have a neutral site and you're playing at Ford Field and you're playing a team like Florida Atlantic. This is like a bowl game for Central Michigan. It feels like the Motor City Bowl. This feels like the Motor City Bowl today, but like you said, hopefully the Spartan fans get out and make the stadium look at least halfway decent full. I admit, $79.
Right.
No team at Ford Field should be charging $79.
Right.
I don't care if the Saints are playing a clone of the Saints; they shouldn't be charging $79. Ford Field should definitely have a limit of their tickets of $50 for what they put on the field for everything.
They're not going to sell out the house. I mean, that's for sure. It's not going to happen. And like you said, people are looking to get out of Detroit, but there's probably not too many. The fan base is in Lansing, and more alumni might be in the Detroit area. But people are looking to get out of Detroit, not go down there, and without the whole tailgating atmosphere, that might deter some people from going to the game.
It should be an interesting game. I think the thing to watch for States it's a lot of these newcomers. Again, the running back we talked about, Bell. Yep. See how that goes. Bell. See if they can just take the steps in the right direction that they get ready for Notre Dame. This isn't a game I don't think they're going to have a problem winning.
No, neither do I.
But it's one of those games where it's a good test. You don't want to win ugly. You want to get momentum. This is one that you need to, just crank it out 49-14, something like that. Get the offense clicking, get a couple turnovers on defense. Really just treat it like a long practice.
Like a long practice, and then as soon as it's over, start gearing up for the next game.
Start gearing up, get back to East Lansing, and get ready as Notre Dame will come in next Saturday. Speaking of Notre Dame, they're going to head to Ann Arbor. No, they're not, because the guys from Ann Arbor are heading to South Bend because that game's at Notre Dame. Michigan is taking on Notre Dame, and we're going to talk about that coming up later in today's show.